Hello, and welcome to our first Connex Solutions event of 2024. Firstly, I'd like to thank Backland Studios for managing all the functionality here and pressing the right buttons. Lord knows if I had to press the buttons and try and talk to my camera at the same time, something would probably go wrong. There is a comments field to your right. You can post any questions there for us, and we'll be able to read them and take them into account. I'm Daryl Gillard, Director of Sales at Connex. I've got about 30 years experience helping IT teams achieve their goals. And with me today is Brian Scannell of Adlumin, who are a Connex cybersecurity partner. Brian is a New England native. We do not hold that against him. I'm a Red Sox fan. But he's transplanted to South Carolina and has been in the technology field for over 10 years. So, hi, Brian.
Hey, Daryl. Thanks for having me.
Nice. Welcome, man. Absolutely welcome. It's like we've been saying beforehand, we're going to try and have some fun here, right?
Absolutely.
We will also be introducing a special guest once we hit the Q&A, a special guest from Shadow HQ, who are another Connex cybersecurity partner. There we go. So, agenda. Our agenda today, a little bit about us, Connex. We are the sponsor of the event. Brian's going to explain a little about who Adlumin are, and then he's going to showcase their Security Operations Center, SOC and MDR, Managed Response Platform. By the way, we consistently mention 90 minutes in our lead up to this event. And that's because if you wanted to try out Adlumin in your own environment, it can be up and running in 90 minutes or less. If you want to know how, you can just message myself or Brian after the event, or by all means, leave a comment. And then at the end, we'll take some questions, have a fireside chat about some of the topics we've been seeing as important today. Connex is built on 3 pillars. The first one is built for clients. So not only do we have decades of experience either being in and leading IT teams or helping IT teams as a solutions provider, but we are intensely client driven. If clients have needs beyond our current partners' capability, we literally scour the globe looking to find a solution that fits. Second, we're powered by partners. Our open partner model ensures that we focus on security with partners in it for the long term. And where appropriate, Connex ensures that partners can work with each other to ease the daily use of that IT team. And finally, we're focused on value. Connex ensures that each client solution helps reduce costs, improve business resilience and capability, and is easy to use. You can see that for yourself if you'd like to ask for an Adlumin demo after the event. We also make sure that our clients bring enterprise-level capability to SMB and local government organizations that don't have these big multi-million-dollar budgets to spend on cybersecurity and IT operations. Our partners care about this space the same way that we do. So with that said, short introduction, I'd like to hand back to Brian, and he's going to run through some of the protection that you can get with the Adlumin platform.
Awesome. Thanks, Daryl. Perfect. Everyone, thanks for joining today. As Daryl mentioned, we are one of their security partners that works with their customers, local to them, and we definitely appreciate that. So a little bit about today, kind of talking about a little bit, where we are in this world of cybersecurity, right? Who Adlumin is, what we do, how we do it, and how we can protect your organization from the most advanced cyber threats in the industry. So let's jump into it here. So I always like to start off with something, that's just not jumping right into, PowerPoint to death, right? So, taking a look back, in the past, right, the hackers of the world they're just kind of those young nerds, right, living in their parents' basement, and we're just kind of messing around with computers, right? They were always seeing new, and they're like, how can we get more? How can we do more of these things, right? So, really trying to understand them, see what they're capable of, right? So, I have this quote here from, I'm not sure if anyone knows, I know nobody can actually speak to me here, but, I get so passionate about technology. Hacking to me was like a video game. It was about getting trophies. I just kept going on and on despite all the trouble I was getting into because I was hooked. That was from Kevin Mitnick, the late Kevin Mitnick. He was labeled as the world's most wanted hacker, in years past from the FBI. So, in the in the past 60 years, we've really evolved as a civilization from not only a technology standpoint, but kind of where we're working and, all of that, right? It's no longer the years of, having Mountain Dew and Cheetos in the basement and trying to just clack away at the computer, right? We've entered a new age, right? And what we're seeing is in theory, most of us, get paid by our employees for doing a good job and doing it well, right? What we're seeing is a shift in time where it's led to this industrialization of cybercrime, right? And the hackers are, most likely amongst us, walking down the street, maybe even holding the door at the coffee shop, right? What's happening is that these hacking organizations are becoming more and more prevalent, and they're acting more like businesses because it's becoming easier. Right. The threat actors are working for a hacking group, and they get a cut of, what they kind of receive of, the hacking they get. Right. And so on an everyday basis. Right. And then, how it's becoming easier is ransomware as a service is super easy. If you know how to get to the dark web, for something, 10, 15, $20, you can buy a ransomware as a service and push that out. I don't advise it, right? But it's making it a lot more accessible to people to do that, right? That's what we're seeing. Let's face it, we're not living in the most stable of times today, right? And these threat actors are kind of playing and preying on that geopolitical tensions we're seeing around the world, right? And state-sponsored aggressors, right, to kind of help and themselves get kind of leverage and kind of whether it's asking for money for this country or for this cause, right? And pushing that way, right? Supply chain exploits, right? And poisoning of DevOps well, right? They're weaponizing the vendors and exploits of the trust chain, right? Systemic vulnerability exploitation 2.0, right? They're looking at vulnerabilities in the software that everyone's using today. If a major, organization can't put out a patch for those, they're leveraging those and trying to get into a company's organization that way, right? And then security tool sophistry and SEO manipulation, right? So they're hijacking stolen security tools and doing drive-by compromises, right? So all of these things are leading to the world that it's becoming a lot easier to be a hacker per se, right? And as we kind of progress on, there's many ways. There are plenty of signs before ransomware attack can take place, right? And I'll kind of focus on a ransomware attack because those are what we're seeing more prevalent, right? Criminals are using very sophisticated methods to gain access, right? There's evidence that will be discovered by your cyber liability insurance IR investigators, right? And what they're doing is they're leveraging things like trusted sources, like news articles, and trying to replicate it and just change the URL and sending that out, right? Kind of phishing attacks, right? Known exploits, right? If you haven't patched stuff and there's exploits, it's an easy way for someone to get in. Or if they've just just anteed up the money and bought credentials off the dark web, right? Their main goal is to get initial access into one's environment, right? Doesn't matter the size of the company, which we'll kind of allude to later, right? And along the way, before a business disrupting impact can take part in the business, right? There are things along the way that can kind of breadcrumbs per se can take act. We'll be able to see, right? Things like dark web exposures, concurrent logins, right? So say today you're in Kingston or Nova Scotia, wherever it might be, right? But then also you have a login in Moscow, Russia, and it's like, hey, like how's that stuff happening? If you don't have the tools and the ability to look at that stuff in live time, that could lead to a problem, right? So they gained initial access. Now it's kind of a persistence, a reconnaissance, right? And they're going to start looking at like unreconciled accounts, stale accounts. You'll start to see unusual remote admin activity, unusual geo traffic, things of that nature, right? So they've harvested these credentials. Now they want to move laterally within the environment, right? And then what we'll start to see is traffic spikes and user entity behavior anomalies, which we'll touch on in a little bit. Malicious payloaders, endpoint events, alerts. This is where it starts to kind of furthermore, and kind of the domino effect starting to take place, right? And like, hey, like there are some serious signs taking place here. And it could be a matter of minutes that it takes place, or it could be a long drawn out period of time. When it gets to like all right, now let's get to a point where we're going to start to detonate ransomware on these machines. We see the files that we want to target. We're going to deploy them. We're going to lock them, and so on and so forth. That's what leads to a business impacting decision. And now it's like, okay, well, it's almost too late. Now it's like, now there's stolen assets, right? Whether there's financial penalties, reputation damage, a ransom negotiation, or operational, disruption. All things that we want to mitigate that risk before that can take place, right? So,
and Brian, I was listening to your colleague Mark a week or two back, and he talked about the visible spectrum versus the whole spectrum of light as an analogy. The visible spectrum is when the attack's happening, you can see things are going badly, but there's all of these events and actions that are happening that aren't necessarily in the easily visible spectrum that you were talking about beforehand, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And as you'll see, is like, we're trying to do and capture everything in one, field of view, to kind of help, with that visibility that, that most companies are lacking today. Right. And so, looks like we may have I know what this is. Let me add some light here. So a little corny, I know, but the ultimate thing here is time is the enemy, right? You think of, there's aggressive threat actors, right? There's these companies who are acting as very formal businesses that are trying to break into your business. Doesn't matter if you're the U.S. government, the Canadian government, doesn't matter if you're a Fortune 5 company, or if you're a manufacturing shop down the street that has 25 employees, right? Everybody is technically at risk, right? And just because you're smaller doesn't mean you're less of a target. They might have a better shot of getting money from you guys than they do the U.S. government, right? Because they have the tools in place to kind of help negate that stuff. So the threat actors today are getting more and more aggressive, right? It's kind of a blessing and a curse, right? The whole COVID stuff, where from a working from home standpoint, right? The expanding exposures, right? Everyone's working from home, or some are, some aren't. There's cloud environments now. It's now starting to get a little harder to try to track where everything is, what kind of software is everything is using, right? And so the exposure is ever expanding, right? Let's face it, right? We're not in like the top of economic growth these days, right? So a lot of companies are trying to do more with less, right? What was probably easier in the past to be like, all right, yeah, cool, we have enough money to hire 3 more security analysts to kind of work with our team, right? It's like, hey, no, actually, we don't have that 3 security analysts in the budget anymore. So it's like, the IT manager now just has to do the work of everybody, right? So the running very lean, and that constrained resources is really a big thing that we're seeing in the environment today. And then last but certainly not least is the increasing accountability, right? We're seeing more and more, let's face it, like cyber liability insurance companies are not in the business to lose money, right? So they're kind of forcing you to have kind of all checks and balances in place, to kind of be able to show that accountability. All right, how do you stack up? Whether it's some sort of regulation, CMMC, HIPAA, PCI, things of that nature. Like, how do you guys stack up to that to make sure you guys are following the NIST framework? And so companies, it's harder and harder for companies to kind of stack up to all this stuff, right? And where we come in is, our goal is to kind of get you out of the dark. And so it's don't get caught in the dark, right? What you cannot see poses the greatest risks. There's exposures that lurk in the cloud, hybrid environments, and the dark net, right? There's countless gaps where threats can hide before they lead to business disrupting events like, the ransomware shutdowns or massive data breaches, as I showed in the previous slides. And so we're here to, ask you, ask yourself, can you identify suspicious activity within 30 seconds and contain an attack within 20 minutes? Because that's ultimately what needs to be done, right? And so that's where Adlumin comes to light, right? So Adlumin is here to shed light on advanced cyber threats, system vulnerabilities, and sprawling IT operations to command greater visibility, stop threats, and reduce business risk while automating compliance for your business. So we're here to, eliminate the threat, eliminate the risk, and command greater authority for your business to take charge, right? And we're protecting organizations across the most critical pillars of the economy, right? So you think, the government, banks, the legal fields, education, healthcare, you name it. We have business and are working with these types of organizations, all around the world, right? So, how we got our start, right? Our two founders, Robert Johnson and Tim Evans, right? So these two gentlemen spent time in the military. After the military, they spent time in the NSA, the National Security Agency, where Robert Johnson was kind of primarily focused on kind of a blue team mentality, where he was kind of leading a team at the U.S. Cyber Command Protection Team, the CPT-81 at the NSA, right? While there, led multiple high-level investigations, including the breach of Pentagon Joint Chief of Staff by the Russian GRU. And after the NSA, he left and was a principal consultant with CrowdStrike, where he was one of the lead investigators, in the 2016 DNC hack, right? So that blue team mentality, right? Whereas Timothy Evans on the other side, former DoD network attack attorney. He was he's a retired colonel in the NSA or at the Air Force, and he was an offensive squadron commander at the NSA, right? So red team mentality, where he was leading a team to, hunt down and proactively hunt foreign adversaries, right? So these two gentlemen came together to create something for that mid-market business. You think that 5 to, let's just say 5,000, where they don't have $1 million, maybe not even $100,000 to spend on a solution to do everything that you're being asked to do, to kind of look at all these things, right? And that's what they did. They created Adlumin, and what we are, right? We're at the Adlumin Security Operations Platform. We're here to command more visibility for your security, compliance, and cyber risk. As Daryl alluded to, we're going to deploy in minutes, right? So we're 100% cloud native out of AWS, right? Traditional SIM-based models or security platforms, right, similar to this, are generally a pay by ingestion rate. So you have a certain amount of gigabits that you sign up for on a monthly basis. We're not in that kind of model, right? We have an unlimited data model. Our main goal is to protect our customers, right? We're not here to, rob you of money, right? We're here to help you from being robbed from those threat actors that are running these huge organizations, right? And so, the goal is to give you the best level of security for your organization, to make sure you're protected and you have the tools at your fingertips, right? We have built-in, compliance insights. We've kind of coined the term network health and compliance insights. And what we do is automate, account and privilege mix configurations, stale accounts and password discovery, look for group policy violations, and, pre-configured regulatory compliance reporting. Right, we have live reporting built into the platform, where you have threat intelligence reports, which we'll touch on a little bit more. We get to see how you're stacking up against your cyber postures, compliance state and operation activities, and we even have like a It's called a board and IT steering committee report. So, everyone's going to report to somebody. So it allows you as kind of the day-to-day IT operations person to print out a report to say, hey, this is what Adlumin has done for us in our business in the last, 5 days, 1 day, 30 days, whatever it is, everything that they've looked through, and show them in easy to read format, charts and graphs and things of that nature.
I was going to say, Brian, that's something that I've had to do in my life as well. Explain to very non-technical people what something very technical has done. So that's something that's automated in Adlumin.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's a click of a button, right? It's just as fast as you can click download. It has all your data in one spot, which we'll get to. It pops out a report. You can even have it scheduled and just send it to, the team, or whether it's a board meeting, what have it. Right. But it kind of walks through kind of a multifaceted view. It's like, hey, hyperlink table of contents to say, hey, here's the most important stuff, high level. Here's all the threats we've seen, how many alerts, how many criticals, how many highs, and kind of just look at them, right? And then it shows exactly kind of how we've helped the business continue operating in its normal fashion. And what's really good about this is that, while it's oh, well, this might seem kind of a little bit cumbersome or a lot to do, our team builds this already for you. So our data science team, our experts write parsing and detection rules so that you don't have to, right? This is all done for you. You in theory, you could set it and forget it, right? So alerts, detections, and our built-in SOAR responses start immediately with integrated ticketing and tracking. So, what makes up Adlumin, right? There's a couple different, features and functionalities to kind of make up Adlumin, right? So, we were kind of built as a SIM platform, right? And at our core, it's kind of what we are, right? So our patented serverless and native, security or software as a service platform, where it houses all the data at one location. So you don't have to now go to 13 different management consoles to look at everything, right? It's all housed in one location, which reduces the amount of time you have to jump to from, your network console and your endpoint console and all the consoles, right? So we make it easier to consolidate that story into one location, right? We then layer, if you want, our managed detection and response services. So our 24/7, 365 security operations center team will be monitoring Adlumin, using Adlumin, your instance, and looking for threats in the environment. We also have log retention based if you have regulatory compliance needs. You need to host data for a year, 2 years, 3 years, 7 years, whatever it might be. We have the ability to store that data for you to meet compliance requirements. So at our core, those are our core platform and services, right? We also have fully integrated add-on modules as well. I won't go into huge detail, and we can definitely discuss in the comments, or even jump on a call afterwards to discuss more in detail. But we have pen testing built into our platform, so we can do pen testing for you. Continuous vulnerability management, which includes vulnerability scanning and patch management, all done by our team, right? We do it for you. And I know that sometimes can be a headache, right? If you're wearing multiple hats, sometimes it takes a while to go in and deploy those patches, do the scan, find the patches, and deploy them. We'll worry no more. We can take that all off in your hands for you, right? Proactive security awareness, kind of alluding to what that quote was from Kevin Mitnick in the beginning, right? The know before, he's kind of like the face of know before, where we're going to, do the training, the phishing testing, and the management, all of that stuff for you guys. If you already have a license, awesome. Let's integrate that into our platform so we can then start to realize kind of what that information is, right? We can associate that with users and devices and so on and so forth. Ransomware prevention, and then total ransomware defense, and then incident response as well. So a busy slide, but I think this paints a really good picture of kind of what we do as a whole, right? Starting from the left to right, we're going to collect the telemetry from everything in your environment, right? So majority of organizations have something networks, switches, routers, access points, right? They have some cloud data, whether it's AWS or if it's in Google Cloud, endpoint data, servers, endpoints, desktops, laptops, you name it, right? Start to correlate data from like Active Directory or Google Workspace. Start to kind of build stories around them, right? Remote access, VPNs, two-factor authentication, security, firewalls, right? Basically anything in your environment that can send a syslog, which there is a lot. We want to be able to pull into our platform, our security operations center, right? And as we do that, we ingest that data, we correlate it, right, through machine learning and AI, right? And that's what AI and machine learning sometimes can be used as buzzwords and buzz terms, right? But what it's really good at is correlating a lot of data at once and kind of painting a better story, kind of like giving a kind of a cliff notes, like, hey, like give me the best and most relevant information with all that information on the left side and make it actionable, right? We're going to aggregate all that data, eliminating false positives, right? Because the last thing you need and or want is a new product to kind of protect you guys, to kind of raise a bunch of new red flags. And then we're going to enrich that data through a variety of different ways, right? One being the user entity behavioral analytics, right? So that is where we're going to build a 3-week temporal pattern of life around all the users in your environment to start to paint a picture around them. Jim in accounting is generally in spreadsheets and Outlook and things of that nature, right? But now he starts veering off path and starts looking at Kali Linux or opening PowerShell and playing with that. Well, that deviates significantly based off of their 3-week baseline. So that's anomaly, right? We also cross-reference and pull down threat intelligence feeds to kind of look at all your data. Hey, does anything match with this threat intelligence feeds that we're getting today? If it does, awesome. Let's produce a threat intelligence driven report or an alert off of that for our team to look at. And then dark web monitoring. So if anyone in your organization has been popped in a data breach, we'll be able to see that. The add-on modules listed below here, but then threat hunting, right? So we have a full team of threat hunting, humans that are going to actually threat hunt your environment. And if we do find those kind of those alerts, not only will we just let you know about it, right? To kind of MDR with a small r, right? We'll tell you, right? But we're also going to take a step further. And it's kind of like the MDR with a big R, right? Is really respond to it. Based off of rules of engagement, what you want us to do, we're actually going to be able to contain threats before they become business disrupting, right? So we can do things like disable accounts, reset credentials, setting time restrictions on machines, disabling access to the internet, isolating machines, power off and on machines, right? Rebooting devices. So we can get very granular of what we want to do with a small 70 kilobit agent on a machine. We don't stop there though, right? So, the ingest, enrich, hunt, contain, remediate. So we're going to actually remediate if something were to happen, right? So we're update automated AI-based system patching, auto blocking and policy management. And then also all that's great. We can tell you we do that, but we like to show our work as well. Hey, this is exactly how we've done that, right? We show you a report on everything that we've done for your business, right? And with that one-touch compliance reporting and real-time threat intelligence and portal as well. So just a few slides left here, but majority, there's a lot of, businesses out there that are kind of following the NIST cybersecurity framework out there, right? And so I wanted to kind of paint a picture of how Adlumin helps you meet that framework, right? So the NIST framework 2.0, right, is the identify, protect, detect, respond, recover, and then governance, right? And so here is each of our products and kind of what we can do and how we can meet all that stuff, right? And I won't go into every single little detail, but we're going to identify a threat. We're going to protect against a threat. We can detect it right through our threat hunting, custom reports, custom alerts, custom detections, our AI, machine learning, deception technologies. We can respond to it through our, remote access, accounts and groups, clouds, device and processes, incident response. We can recover. So through our, protection security, certified warranty, auto AI-based system patching, policy updates, and then the governance portion of it is, hey, like prove and show your work right here. And that's the executive reports that we kind of alluded to, that Daryl, you mentioned that you had to kind of make that that technical jargon kind of be more business jargon, right? So we do that for you, right? So full service, full.
Yeah, that was no fun. I'm into anyone who does that for me.
Exactly, right. It's automating it, before, so you don't have to, right? And that's the biggest thing is with the constrained resources, why not, right? And so, oops, come on, sorry. There we go. So, when we're evaluating an MDR service provider, right? There's a lot out there, right? But all the things that we just talked about, right? Kind of really being able to contain threats, remediate the threats, and report on the threats that do take action, right? Other considerations when you're evaluating MDR vendors, right? There's a big list, but these are the things that we think that like are the kind of mission critical and what you should look for, right? You should look for like an insurance warranty, right? You look for like a minimum of $500,000 coverage for incidents with specific security requirements, right? Vulnerability management. So you need to be able to detect systemic and tactical vulnerabilities in your network and look for unpatched systems with reporting, right? Patch management. So we've got the scanning, you've got something that can do scanning, but also being able to deploy patches based on VM monitoring, right? Scanning is great, but if you don't have the team to actually go in and do the hard work and patching things, that's half the battle, right? Attack simulation. So AI-driven attacks using a suite of APTs or TTPs, right? Incident response. You need someone that can go in and do a post-incident root cause analysis and litigation support, right? And so Adlumin does a great job at being able to find out, where did this attack come from? How did it stem? And let's get to the bottom of it so we can prevent against it in the future. And then help with the kind of the litigation of it, kind of proving executive level report of everything that's happened up to this point, and again, showing the governance portion of that NIST framework, right? Experience defending against APTs, advanced persistent threats, right? Adlumin's demonstrated experience blocking APTs, nation state hacks, and named ransomware, from groups in the industry, right? And then SOC professional development. You need someone that has a fully matured SOC with 3 different tiers, multiple levels of certifications, programs, and professional development paths, right? We are always growing as an organization. Our SOC team is always growing. And there needs to be checks and balances in place, right? To continue their knowledge path and kind of a tier 1 or tier 2 or tier 3 levels support, right? And then executive support, right? So you need to have a team behind you, right? We enter this as like what Adlumin does as a partnership. As I was saying earlier, right? We're obviously in business, right? We need to make money, right? It's every business makes money, but we're not here to rob you of money, right? So you have the Adlumin team to fully support you to be able to give those board level briefings as well. To show you exactly the ROI on everything that's happening in your environment, and again, show the work, right? And so, I was touching on earlier that the machine learning, right? Sometimes it gets tossed around as kind of like a buzzword, right? But our data science team here has done a lot to really build up a lot of stuff in the product, where even the U.S. Air Force had used our machine learning algorithms and our data science for their F-35 fighter jets, right? Because of how fast can correlate data and so on, right? So what we're going to be looking across your environment, we're going to be looking for geolocation data, right? We're looking for, we can detect suspicious Microsoft Office 365 or Google Workspace and, VPN connections from beyond normal organizational operations, right? We're going to look for like a geolocation aspect, right? And see what's normal and what's not normal. We look for things like impossible travel. Like I said earlier, like, all right, you're logging in from Toronto, and then 3 hours later you're logging in from Moscow, and it's like, well, you cannot physically travel that fast. So that is kind of we detect concurrent or consecutive logons, right? And you can't travel that fast, right? So lateral movement within the environment. Like we'll look at process execution events, PowerShell executions, ransomware, shared drives, and the list goes on, right? But we're constantly evolving our machine learning algorithms to make it that much better and protect you guys. What's also really good is that, as I alluded to it earlier, traditional MDR providers don't come with a built-in SOAR or security automation and response, tool, right? And again, it means with us being able to give it to you guys as part of the platform, right? With this built-in SOAR capabilities, it means it's easier to find and resolve threats within your environment. And you guys, if you want, set the playbook. It's a toggle on and off button, and I'd love to be able to show folks via demo, right? Because it's a very powerful tool and it's super easy to use, right? But you still have to, a choice to, perform manual actions within the platform, or just, hey, let the SOAR do its work, right? And again, we can take actions on endpoints, groups, systems, remote access, cloud access, endpoints, network devices, system devices, and risk remediation, right? And kind of furthermore, we're going to monitor across groups, accounts, and systems, right? So operating systems, we get to be able to see everything in your environment. Top systems with detections. What are the most active systems, right? These are key things to kind of understanding, like kind of stories in the environment and your network, right? On the account side of the house, right? What operating systems are we seeing? Who's logging in, where, right? And then domain and local groups. Groups with circular logic, right? Empty groups, why are they still there? Privileged groups, are there people who have non-privilege credentials that have access to that privileged group, right? We want to be able to see that group policy violation, right? Computer groups, domain groups, right? These are all things that are going to help your everyday life make it easier for you, right? And again, and I continue to harp on it, but the live reporting, what we see from our customers, they say, hey, this is such a big help for us and our business, not only just from a security aspect, but an aspect of kind of making sure our Active Directory is clean, our cyber hygiene is up to date, right? That live reporting, that risk data is critical to your operations. So we provide a full level MDR overview, right? So with our SLAs, detection by severities, detection types, our MDR analyst workload, top tenant views, top detections, what's the closed accounts or closed tickets, MDR team, and MDR alert status, and kind of like daily alerts as well. So being able to show and communicate with our SOC team via either a ticketing system or through our platform, because you get to see live when they're working on tickets, is very crucial to see, like that open transparency view for your business. So, that's all I had for today. I know it was a lot, but I would love the opportunity to, show the power of Adlumin. And Daryl might allude to or touch on it a little bit, but we're able to offer, your organization a 2-week proof of value where we come in, we fully deploy the 100% Adlumin platform into your environment with our SOC team turned on. And, if you're already using an MDR, awesome, run us next to that, right? See what we're uncovering, and then the other one's not. It's a great ROI exercise, and you can even see what your cyber hygiene looks like today. So with that, I'll leave it at that. We do a demo or whatever you want. We're happy to help out with.
Even I can do the math on an ROI for something that doesn't cost anything for 2 weeks.
Absolutely.
Well, maybe I can't. Maybe the ROI is infinite.
If it's free, it's for me, right?
I appreciate all of that, Nick. You mentioned something there that really resonated with Well, it highlights why we at Connex want to work with Adlumin. And it was talking about making the IT team's life easier. That's something that we focus on across all of our partners. I think you demonstrated very well how Adlumin fits into that mentality as well.
Absolutely.
So appreciate it. Now let me introduce our special guest. We're going to bring him up on our virtual stage here. Nick Scazzaro. Nick, how are you?
Hey guys, good afternoon. Thanks for having me.
Welcome, welcome. Nick is the founder and CEO of Shadow HQ. Shadow HQ is another Connex cybersecurity partner. Nick's been in and around the tech startup world for about 10 years now. Before that, spent over a decade at BlackBerry. Wait a minute, Nick, did I age you there? Sorry if I did, buddy.
Good. Yeah, no, thank you. Yeah, it's been about since secure collaboration communication for about 20 plus years, starting in 2001 at BlackBerry. So I appreciate you having me here today. Shadow HQ is an out-of-band secure workspace that helps organizations manage through mobile major cyber attacks and crises like ransomware. So imagine when all of your systems and accounts are compromised, Shadow HQ would act as your virtual bunker, having all the tools, people, process documents, all those things that NIST requires you, report templates, and all the communication tools that you'd need to stay online and recover quickly from an attack. So our hope is to help you recover quickly, mitigate the damage, and keep you out of the headlines. And we love working with Connex, and big fan of Adlumin and their platform. It's one of the best out there. So great job, Brian.
I used to have this phrase that when I was trying to get some other cybersecurity software out there, something that we at Connex still are involved with, Snapshield at 45 drives. And the phrase was, I didn't want you out of the headlines. I wanted you to be able to go to the mic and go, yeah, we had a cyber attack. We did these 7 things. It's all contained. We're fine. We're good. We've got backups of this of the data, and everyone's going to be happy, which never happens, does it? Right? The headline is, we had an attack. We're still in the middle of our response. In fact, Brian, we were talking just before this, before we went live, about how the RCMP are currently dealing with something that started on Friday, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and yeah, I think it originated from it was a VPN. The personal information of users, including employees, was compromised after unauthorized individuals accessed the department's virtual private network. So, as I was saying in the slide, or one of the slides earlier, is like, if there's unusual traffic or unusual connections through a VPN or however they're doing it, these are things that could be uncovered I wouldn't say pretty easily, right? Obviously, there's technology that does that. That's above my head, but the technology can uncover that with using those data science, and machine learning technologies in place to hopefully and eventually, protect against that.
Yeah, and Nick, I think I saw something recently you posted on LinkedIn about someone had hackers living in their network for like 5 years, so just forever and ever and ever.
Yeah,
which blows my mind.
Yeah, that's not uncommon. I mean, I like to think of these threat actors, and maybe it's because I just had a leak in the foundation in my basement, but it's like water. They'll find the cracks, no matter the size. Whether the hackers won't know you as a big or a small entity, they'll just find a hole and they'll make their way through it, path of least resistance. So it's amazing how long they can go undetected. I think that was the U.S. infrastructure on the government side, where they were hanging out for 5 years before they were detected. So yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, and Brian, that speaks directly to the level of automated response that can be available with Adlumin, I think, that you were talking about, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And and Nick, I'm not sure if it was the same one, but there was just a recent article that came out on the 16th in February that the U.S. state government network breached via a former employee's account, right? And as I was touching on earlier, and you mentioned, right, the cyber hygiene of a company's infrastructure is key, because if whether a company or an employee leaves on their own goodwill, or if they get fired for just not doing their job correctly, right? If that account becomes stale, and is just kind of left to do whatever it is, right? And especially if they have, if it's a privileged account or they have group access to whatever, that's a perfect spot to, a perfect crack in the foundation for someone to kind of get in there and just hang out for a while, right? Start collecting some credentials and kind of be like, all right, cool. Where should I look next, right? What do I have access to? And then, as I alluded to earlier, it's kind of like, all right, now I'm past the reconnaissance phase. Now let's go a little bit further and kind of see where I can move laterally without being noticed.
Yeah. You know what, Brian, I like that example because that hygiene is very important. Hackers today, they're not breaking in, they're logging in. And just from just some simple oversight like that has now put your organization in compromise.
Absolutely. Yeah. And depending on, I would assume if someone's terminated willfully or unwillfully, you want to get those accounts off the network or off AD as fast as possible, right? So you can set up alerts in Adlumin to instantly just say, hey, stale account hasn't been used for 30 days, 15 days, whatever it is. Let's terminate that within Active Directory as soon as possible, right? Or stale passwords, another way to breach as well, especially if credentials are for sale on the dark web.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Adlumin. You guys are really, you're thinking of a lot of the gaps and the threats that are out there that people might overlook. So I can't say enough good things about you guys.
Likewise.
So much appreciated that we all enjoy each other. I appreciate you guys bringing it down to cracks in foundations and water metaphors so that I can understand that as well. Although thankfully, even with all this snow out here, I haven't got any leaks yet. But we've been talking about RCMP, we've been talking about federal government agencies, and obviously they're big targets, right? The big organized hackers are going to want to go after those kind of things. The trophy element that you've literally began with, right, Brian?
Mm-hmm.
And to be honest, right, Connex, we focus on organizations that have IT teams available, resourced and funded to look after some of these things. Although I can guarantee you I've yet to find an organization that says they've got the absolute full IT team that they want.
Yeah.
But is there, Nick, is there a level at which an organization can say, I'm too small, I don't have to worry about that at all?
No, I think I was saying earlier, these opportunities that the hackers or threat actors don't always know the size. They just see an opening. Like how many times do you spammed in one day to trick you to log in? And, even I have to double look every time. Is this a real DocuSign? So I'm sure whatever victim picks up that email, they'll log in. Now, the larger the organization, the more sophisticated their controls will be, the harder it'll be to get in and exploit. But there's a bigger reward in the end, the bigger payout. On the smaller side, I mean, if there's something of value to take from you, they'll find their way in. Because once they're in, they're going to know what your insurance policy is covering you for. They're going to know what's in your bank accounts, and they'll just know a little bit too much about you, and they'll be ahead of you. So they'll find a way to extort something out of you for sure. Is what we're seeing.
So the response, I can't pay you, I don't have the money, becomes moot because they know how much money you got.
Exactly.
Yeah, I had what became a client after the attack. They were a small municipality out of Oregon, right? A town nobody had ever heard of. But they came to us and said, hey, listen, 12 months ago, we got attacked and they wanted $45,000 off us. So yeah, we hear all these average ransomware payment is $2 million, etc. But with ransomware as a service, there's kids hanging around just going, hey, I don't like the way you talked to me yesterday. I'm going to see if I can ransomware attack you, right?
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. And for, let's say a Fortune 500 company, right? $45,000 is nothing, right? It's a drop in the hat, right? But to a small manufacturing shop in Oregon or wherever it is, $45,000 could be a difference of, making payroll or not, right? And so that business disruption could be massive.
Yeah, I think it speaks to impact, right? The impact can be equal or even greater in a smaller organization.
Absolutely.
Okay, one more topic I got here. So everyone outside of the tech community has been talking about AI for, I don't know, 12, 15 months now, ever since ChatGPT came out, right? And everyone could log into a browser and try asking questions. But us tech nerds have been thinking about it for a while, utilizing it in some cases for longer than that too. To something that you guys just said, I used to use language as one of my red flags in a phishing campaign because it never sounded quite right. There was always something that I wouldn't have written personally. But that goes away with generative AI, right? A bad operator out of, I don't want to name a country, but let's just assume that English isn't their first language, can just go to one of these generative AIs, go, hey, this is my language, translate that into real English, and then put that into a phishing email, and that red flag goes away for me, right? So what I want to think about is that's okay. That's an easy one to spot. I can still hover over links and see where they go. But are there other areas of AI that you guys see that bad operators can exploit, or vice versa? How do you see AI being part of our side, the white hat response side of trying to defend against this? Brian, do you want to take a shot at that one?
Yeah, sure. So, if if the good guys have AI technology, that means the bad guys probably have it as well, right? Everyone has a way to get their fingertips on something these days, right? So we put a lot of time and effort into our patent security and our data science and our AI machine learning technology to help I guess set trip wires along the way to kind of find out if it's truly real or not within an attack. So but it's ever evolving, right? You think I think we're now on Chat GPT 4 or 4.5. I'm not sure, but it's evolving very quickly, right? So we're always staying ahead of the curve before the next wave of AI attacks can come out.
That's been cybersecurity, hasn't it? It's always been this war of attrition where one side learns something and the other side, doesn't matter which side is which, left or right, they go, oh, you've done that. Well, we'll have to do this now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great point, Brian. I think AI from a response side, I'll focus on that a bit. It really is expected to revolutionize all aspects of the threat and the response piece. Just some things that we're looking at today is, being able to monitor behaviors to try to identify the threats quicker. So when you know what you're dealing with, and some of the simpler ones, suggesting how to respond and maybe prompting you and reminding you throughout the weeks or hours that you're dealing with an issue, just to make sure that you're checking everything that you should be or doing things that you need to be. Also AI participating in, learning your processes in your business and being able to help you guide that way. And even to the after effects of helping you manage your reputation, trying to locate and identify just some risks to your reputation. Because if you have been compromised, it might affect what your customers or partners and their confidence in you. So being able to stay ahead of that. So those are some of the quick and simple ones that we're seeing on the response side.
Yeah, that's fascinating, isn't it? Making it customized to you, because AI right now is still pretty general. It's not overly customized. If I go in and say, well, LinkedIn says rewrite this AI post for me, right? And I hit rewrite, and some things are great, and then the other things are like, I would never write that. That would not. I'm sure other people would, but I wouldn't. So the idea that AI can then customize actually to your processes and your environment and say, hey, normally you said you wanted to do this by now. Are you ready to do this? That kind of thing is fascinating.
And back to the back and forth. So once you do start understanding your behaviors and the personalization pieces, then you've got the deep fake to worry about. So it's just going to be this continuous
Yep.
Yeah, we're all talking heads now. Someone might deepfake us, but I don't know if I'm that interesting to deepfake.
I have, listen, I've found myself in cybersecurity naturally, but by accident. And I've never been more paranoid in my life. So I've now naturally have to assess and everything that comes past my screen. And even now it's like, is this real? Is this a real picture? Because we're looking for those things. So we're a little bit ahead of that. So we want to be the first, or have to be part of the first team that finds them.
Yeah, I hear you. I want to be aware of everyone's time watching. So I'm going to wrap this up. Do want to mention we will be drawing 2 names after the webinar, because we did say just register. So it doesn't have to be someone that showed up. So, they got caught up in their day. That's okay. So there is a ticket. There's 2 tickets to win to the Atlantic Security Conference in Halifax on April 4th and 5th. I personally love this conference, partly because it's in Nova Scotia, so it's easy for me to get to, but partly because I've been there the last 2 times and I learned so much. And Nick, you're going to be there this year too, right?
I am. I'll be coming in from Ontario. Yeah.
I don't know if you should buy me a beer for being a special guest, or I should buy you one, but maybe we do both.
It's Halifax. Everyone just seems to always have a beer.
So for those attendees still on, please monitor your email. We're going to email you. We need you to reply to us to confirm that you do want the ticket. So please make sure that you do that. Nick, Brian, thanks, guys. I have loved having the opportunity to chat with you, listen, and learn from you guys. That was awesome.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you.
I appreciate it, Daryl.
And lastly, thanks to our attendees, and good luck with the draw. And with that, we'll say goodbye.
Awesome. Thanks, Daryl. Thanks, Nick.